David, a man of routine, rarely deviated from his schedule. Every evening after work, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the sky turned into a canvas of fading light, he would stay late in the office. He wasn't lazy or overly dedicated. He was simply comfortable in the familiarity of his routine. The click of his keyboard echoed in the near-empty office, a rhythm that lulled him into a state of peaceful concentration. As the city gradually transformed from bustling daytime vibrancy to twinkling nighttime charm, David remained absorbed in his work, didn't mind the solitude. In fact, he found solace in the quiet hum of the office, the soft glow of the desk lamp his only companion. This was his sanctuary, a place where he could lose himself in tasks, leaving the complexities of the outside world at the door. One evening, as a heavy rain began to lash against the window panes, David found himself even more engrossed in his work than usual. The storm seemed to mirror the turmoil in his thoughts, a symphony of gray skies and relentless rain drops that perfectly matched the monochromatic landscape of his mind. Time slipped by unnoticed, measured only by the growing pile of files on his desk and the deepening shadows cast by the darkening clouds outside. When he finally looked up, startled by a sudden bolt of lightning, he realized it was well past midnight. The city lights had flickered on one by one, transforming the wet, dark streets into a maze of glittering paths. But no one was out. Not a soul braving the elements, making the city feel like a ghost town. David hesitated. He considered calling a cab, but the idea of jolting through the empty, rain-slicked streets didn't appeal to him. He wanted something quieter, a mode of transport that could navigate the city's arteries without the need to honk its way through the silence. As if by magic, just then he saw a faint glow at the end of the dark street, a beacon amidst the gloom. Pulling closer to the window, he saw an old blue bus slowly pulling up at the empty bus stop near his office. It looked older than the city itself, its paint peeling and its headlights glowing softly through the fog. It wasn't a normal bus, nor one he recognized. Yet something about it, perhaps the soft glow or the sense of familiarity it exuded, compelled him to go to it. Without much thought, David put on his raincoat, grabbed his briefcase and stepped out into the rain. He walked towards the bus stop, each step making a soft, slapping sound on the wet pavement. As he got closer, he could hear the gentle rumble of the bus engine, a comforting sound that promised shelter from the storm. The bus door opened, revealing a dimly lit interior, and he stepped in. Inside the bus, the air was thick with the scent of old wood and something faintly sweet like vanilla. He dropped a few coins into the box and took a seat near the window. The driver, an elderly man with a kind face and eyes that twinkled like distant stars, nodded without saying a word. David pulled his collar tighter against the dampness and watched as the bus pulled away from the curb. The bus moved slowly, not bothering to accelerate. It turned into streets he had never seen before, streets that were filled with warm lights and quiet corners that felt alive. And though they appeared deserted, they felt cozy and inviting. He turned back to look at the driver, but he couldn't see his face as the old man had turned away to focus on the road ahead. At the first stop, the bus slowed down, but didn't fully stop. A young woman stepped in, holding a small sketchbook in her hand. She sat opposite David and began drawing, her pencil moving gracefully across the page. The bus jerked again, jolting David from his thoughts. He turned back to the window and watched as the young woman deftly sketched the passing lights and shadows. Her focus was intense, yet there was a serene smile on her lips. She looked up and caught David staring, and she smiled at him. It was a smile that felt like a forgotten memory of simpler times, a reminder of a carefree joy that he had long thought he'd lost. Startled by his own emotions, David quickly looked away, feeling a blush creep up his neck. The bus made several such stops, each time allowing a new passenger to board. None of them spoke, yet there was a silent understanding between them, a shared awareness that they were part of something unspoken but significant. At one point, the bus turned into a street lined with tall trees that glowed softly under the moonlight. The branches moved with the wind, casting dancing shadows on the bus windows. It was as if the world outside was alive, speaking in a language that David had almost forgotten. Then, as if guided by an invisible force, the bus stopped at a corner. The old man stepped out, holding a worn-out violin case. He paid the driver, not with money, but with a knowing look and a slight nod. He then walked away, his gait firm despite his age. And just as David was about to ask the driver where they were going, another old man boarded the bus. He carried the scent of fresh bread and old books with him, sat down heavily, letting out a sigh that spoke of a life well lived. His eyes, though dimmed with age, held a sparkle of mischief and kindness. This unexpected turn of events filled David with a sense of intrigue and a touch of apprehension. Where were they going? What was the purpose of this unusual journey? Questions buzzed in his head, seeking answers from the enigmatic driver. But the driver was as silent as the night, his gaze fixed on the road ahead, his lips pressed into a thin line. The bus continued on, its route unknown, its destination a mystery. Each passing moment was laden with anticipation, each turn in the road bringing them closer to an undisclosed destination. David stole glances at the other passengers, trying to decipher their stories from their worn hands. Weather-beaten faces and quiet demeanor. There was a painter with hands covered in colors. A small boy holding a paper boat, his eyes filled with dreams. An elderly woman with a suitcase full of letters she never sent. A young man reading a book about places he wished to visit. Each of them was carrying a piece of a story, a narrative woven into the fabric of their lives. At one stop, a couple boarded the bus, holding hands. Their love story evident in the way they looked at each other, whispering sweet nothings. They sat close together, lost in their own world, a testament to enduring love that transcended time. The bus kept moving, never fully stopping, yet welcoming new passengers at every slow pause. These fleeting encounters painted a vivid tapestry of human experiences, each passenger adding a new thread to the rich fabric of the journey. As the city gradually fell silent, the bus became a sanctuary of sorts, a refuge where stories unfolded and lives intertwined. David, initially hesitant, found himself drawn into the rhythm of the bus, the gentle sway and the soft hum of the engine lulling him into a state of peaceful observation. He watched the city lights drift by, marveling at the beauty of the ordinary. In the reflection of street lamps and puddles, in the soft glow of neon signs, in the rustling of leaves and the gentle breeze, he saw poetry. The city, once familiar, now appeared alien and enchanting. It was as if he were seeing it for the first time. The realization dawned on him. The bus wasn't just a means of transportation, it was a journey through the parts of the city that people often forget to see. The quiet alleys, the warm lights behind closed windows, the reflection of street lamps and puddles, the hidden cafes that stayed open for lost souls. It was a tour of the city's soul, and then it struck him, the significance of the passengers. Their presence, their stories. They were not merely chance encounters. They were part of the journey, each representing a facet of life that David had neglected in his pursuit of a routine existence. As the minutes turned into hours, David found himself strangely comfortable in the midst of these strangers. The bus became a microcosm of the world, a place where lives intersected. Stories were shared and connections were made silently. In the shared silence, David felt a sense of community, a feeling that transcended the boundaries of language and age. The driver, the passengers, the city, all were conspiring to show him a side of life he had long forgotten. With each passing moment, the city looked different from the bus, alive in its silence, breathing stories through its empty streets. David, initially skeptical, found himself embracing the experience. As the night deepened and the rain outside intensified, David realized that he had never felt so connected to a city, its people, or its stories. He understood now that the bus was not just a bus, it was a journey through the city's heart, a journey of discovery, healing, and connection. As the first rays of dawn touched the horizon, painting the sky with hues of gold and purple, David knew it was time to go. He stood up, his heart heavy with a mix of emotions. He thanked the driver, not for the ride, but for the journey. The driver, his face now illuminated by the rising sun, smiled knowingly. "The bus will be here whenever you need it," he said, his voice raspy yet comforting. "I do not." Stepping out of the bus, David looked around. The rain had stopped, and a faint rainbow arched across the sky. The city seemed new, its streets echoing with the promise of a fresh start. He walked away from the bus stop, feeling lighter, as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. He knew he would return to his routine, to the familiar rhythm of his daily life. But he also knew that he was not the same man who had boarded that bus the night before. He carried within him the stories of the silent passengers, the wisdom of the old driver, and the magic of a city that never ceases to amaze. Sometimes that's all it takes, a ride on a magic bus, a journey through the night, to remind us of the beauty that surrounds us and the stories that connect us all.